What's up, everybody? The next war of the Invincible universe got going this week, and all I ask before I get into episode 406 is that you subscribe to the channel. It's a huge help, so thank you. Now let's dive in. We started things off with the two leaders on each side, Thetis and Thrag, addressing their people. This was essentially an expansion on that Thetis scene that I mentioned in last week's breakdown, how he calls an assembly as the war begins, and there are some scenes from the book mixed into this section too. Some of it had updated dialogue. For example, Thetis says, "Let the war begin," instead of "commence the initial assault." Nothing too crazy here, except the animation. I know people are always coming to the show's defense for this, and I'm inclined to as well. I've loved plenty of shows with subpar animation, but this show's getting to a point I can't even defend anymore. The animation's horrendous, and no, having a couple of phenomenal pure panel scenes a season doesn't save it. Like, I admit the ships in this fight in chapter 73 of the book look goofy, they're ridiculous, but the ships in the show just look bad. And honestly, all of the fights in space did, at the very least, you gotta impress with your action. Anyways, we went back to the Grayson boys after that opening sequence, and we saw the burial of Conquest. Oliver's much harsher to his father in this scene, and just this storyline in the show. Obviously, that started last week, but now we got them kind of earning that dynamic that they have in this portion of the books. That's not always my favorite thing, and I thought Kirkman did a decent job with it here. It felt like Oliver just had a little more character at first, so this was initially a good change. However, and again, I hate to go in on these animators, but it just feels like they're dumbing this world down at this point. We saw this fight from the books where Nolan's getting dinner, and the creature was so bland. I know it seems like a minor thing at face value, but laziness like this tends to bleed into other areas, and that's why I'm bringing it up so much because of the final fight in this week's episode, but now I'm getting ahead of myself. We'll get to that towards the end of the video. For now, I want to shift to Alan and Tech Jacket because, well, in all honesty, this duo sucks in the show. This one really hurts because in season 4 specifically, and this is just me, my opinion, it's starting to feel like some of the Alan downgrades in this story are directly because of Seth Rogen. Like Kirkman, he put himself in a spot where he's got to write for Seth now instead of for Alan, and I think a good way of putting it might be that the space elements of this show's story just feel way too human. Even the duo's escape saw some weird changes. It turns out the Viltrumite Crad was on this mission as cannon fodder and nothing else when he's part of the war in the books, and he gets replaced in later scenes with some total rando. Space Racer couldn't even save this scene either, and I'm starting to doubt if the next two episodes, which should be epic, are going to live up to the standard set by the book. With that being said, we got back to the Grayson boys for another bunch of original scenes for the show. You got to fill that runtime. I'm joking about that kind of, but Nolan and Oliver, they fought another one of these creatures. Somehow, the animation took a back seat though, because the new dynamic between the father and son started to fail for me here. That's why I said I thought it was initially a good change. Not to mention that Bobby Boy apparently forgot that his own character Oliver has memories of his time on Thraxa because of his DNA cocktail. His memory's insane. Regardless, our duo of Ellen and Tech Jacket made their way to Telescria, and just like the books, when they arrive, the traitors shoved in your face. We also got Battle Beast making his way back into the fold as we got into a bit of a hybrid Thetis scene. It starts off word for word from the books and shifts into something new to match Thetis' confidence in the show, but Telly is added in here too, and I'm not saying, nothing against Tatiana Maslany. It's not her, it's Telia's story, and I don't want Pink Patrick Stewart back either, but I'd really prefer if neither of them were involved in the war. Then shifting to the Viltrumite sandwich in the middle of this week's episode, and it's a weird stretch. I was just so glad that I was watching Nolan and Oliver go fishing instead of getting more new scenes of the Coalition defending their home and the Viltrumites sneaking their way to Telescria. Thankfully, we got to the first bit of Mark waking up pretty quick, where he doesn't even realize that his fight with Conquest is over. Stephen Young delivered big time there and passed it off to Lee Pace. In the books, this scene with Thrag was entirely with Argo's skull, but here we got half with Krieg and half with the skull, and I'm always down for more Clancy Brown. However, I forgot to mentally prepare myself for the lobster scene, and holy shit, did it get some crazy dialogue changes. It's so much more specific, and then that makes it, so much more disturbing how he saw one instead of the entire tank and ate that one specifically. But I guess, I kind of have to be glad because last week I was hoping and praying that Tech Jacket wouldn't be his lover, and it seems like that's not going to be the case. I truly hope it's not because that would have been a disaster. From there, we saw some scenes from the books that got new paint jobs, and the first was Mark waking up. It's a very similar scene. Oliver is just the one who calls out to him there instead of their father when he's wandering by the grave, and like most scenes from the books that make it into the show, the conversation changes. Same goes for the other one with Thetis, although the traitor is also still at his station during this scene, which does make sense to be fair. Instead of being behind Thetis, he's got his top fighters at his side in this version of the story's the invasion of Telescria began right on cue. It was more fleshed out here in the show. You've got Thetis versus Krieg like the books, and credit where credit is due. That portion of the fight had solid animation. Then as Alan and Tech Jacket got brought in, I was wondering where Anissa was. It would have been nice if she had 100% of her few moments in this battle, but I digress. It was a fitting change that Mark got to come in and rock her instead of his dad like the books. Their arrival was also what started truly testing my limits with the animation though, because that endgame Captain Marvel moment that Kirkman, he did that 2 decades ago. It looked like the two brothers busting through some GTA tire smoke. It's just gotta be better to finish the season. Then after the battle, they gave us a few minutes and new scenes from catching the ship to Telia interrupting Alan and Thetis, and even that conversation with the two coalition leaders was a new scene before they got to the traitor scene from the books. That even got a change though. They accused the wrong data twin here, and as they do that, he realizes it was his brother, but it was weird. At least to me it was, to have Alan holding him as he takes a shot. In the books, he's kind of the Viltrumites had just escaped, and Alan and Omni-Man, they're kind of distracted by the confusion, and the data twin, he figures it out by himself and shoots his brother. I don't know. I'm probably overreacting. We got the information we needed, and we wrapped the episode up on the final page of chapter 74. Oh, and they did the fake out credit scene. Don't worry, Conquest, he's gone for good. With all that being said, I continue to get more and more disappointed as this season goes on. There's absolutely been some good in it, but the way that Kirkman has decided to stretch this section of the story has not been working so well for me, and the animation frustrations just make it that much worse. If we got to drop some stars from this cast to get consistent visuals and good fight visuals, then we got to do it. Some of them can't voice act anyway, so it would probably be a 2-for-1 improvement that the show desperately needs. And so that's going to do it for my breakdown of Invincible episode 406. I want to know what you guys thought about this episode. Maybe I'm just being too hard on the show, so let me know down in the comments below. Subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed the video. Smash that like button on your way out and make sure you have a great day.